Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Alexi and I'm the creator of Bukuras tutorials, the perfect place for any study organization and time management tips. This video is going to be part 1 in a 3-part series all about 21 habits that you can start in 2021. Now, because I focus on 3 different areas here in my channel, study skills, organization skills, and time management skills, I'm going to be creating 3 videos all about habits within those 3 categories. So this video right here is going to be about 7 study skills habits that you can implement in 2021. Now, with any of these tips, they are just that, tips. They are strategies that either I use myself or strategies that I have my students use. You might already do some of these strategies, or maybe you don't do any of them. The point in this video is just to try and improve your study skills over the next year. I would not recommend trying out all 7 of these strategies at once. That's just going to be too overwhelming. What I do recommend though is maybe picking one strategy per month and really dive in and implement that strategy to the best of your ability. Once you master that strategy, then you can move on to another one in the next month. Though this might be slow progress, you'll be able to see large progress over time. If you like what you see in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I come out with new videos every Thursday, so be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on a video. If there's a topic that you'd like me to make a video on in the future, just leave a comment down below. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. My top 7 study skills habits that you can implement in 2021. The first study skills habit that you can start implementing in 2021 is to rewrite your notes. Now, there's not much in life that you can master by doing just once, and rewriting your notes is no different. I recommend rewriting your notes within 24 to 48 hours of initially taking them. This is going to ensure that the information that you've taken notes on is still fresh in your brain. After you've rewritten your notes the first time, you can rewrite them as many more times as you want. The more you rewrite them, the better chance you're going to have of remembering the information in the long term. My second study skills habit for 2021 goes along with the first one of rewriting your notes. This tip is to abbreviate when you are taking those notes. No matter if you take notes during a lecture or from a book or a textbook on your own time, it is usually done in some sort of time-sensitive manner. If you are in a lecture listening to a professor, you're trying to take notes at the pace that they are speaking to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the information. If you're taking notes from a book or a textbook, you're usually trying to get it done in a time-efficient way. Abbreviating your notes is going to save more time than you think. It might only save a second or 2 in the moment, but if you add up that second or 2 over and over again, it's going to save time in the long run. You can abbreviate in many different ways. It just has to work for you. Some people like to abbreviate by using symbols instead of words. Some people use shortened words for names or places or things like that. Again, it just has to work for you. So for example, if you are in an English class and you are taking notes on Romeo and Juliet, I imagine that you're going to be writing the names Romeo and Juliet multiple times over the course of the unit. So instead of writing out their full names, abbreviate them. Maybe you just write an R for Romeo and a J for Juliet. Or maybe you write RM for Romeo Montague and JC for Juliet Capulet. Again, in the moment, it's not going to save more than a second or 2, but when you add them up over time, it's going to save a lot of time. It also might be the difference between you hearing the last sentence of what your professor is saying or not hearing that last sentence. When abbreviating, I recommend that you use a key that you keep in the beginning of your notes. You can just write this at the top of the page, or maybe you put it on a sticky note that you put at the beginning of your notes. This ensures that when you go back to your notes at a later point in time, whether it's a week later or a month or 2 later, there's no chance that you won't remember what those abbreviations stand for. Habit number 3 is to make sure that you actively study. Now, there's a big difference between actively studying and passively studying. Actively studying really ensures that you are going to remember the information for the long term. An example of passively studying is rereading over your notes as the sole way of studying. Now, there's nothing wrong with rereading over your notes if you implement other strategies in addition to that. Some of these strategies include making flashcards, making songs to remember the information, making charts, graphs, mind maps, rewriting your notes, creating a review game with your friend, quizzing. There's so many of them, but you want to make sure that you actively do something while you are studying. My 4th study skills habit is to figure out what kind of learning style works best for you. I am a super visual learner, so things like charts, maps, diagrams, color coding, anything that is super visual helps me to remember the information better. On the other hand, I struggle with auditory strategies. So if we put this into a real life situation, if someone is giving me directions and they tell me 3 or 4 or 5 steps as to how to get somewhere, I often forget what the steps are after the first step. If they repeat the directions 2 or 3 times, I might remember the second or third step, but it's still really, really hard for me. Now, if someone were to give me a map or a GPS where I can visually see where I'm supposed to go, it is so much easier for me. All of that applies to how I study as well. Once you figure out what type of learning style best suits you, you can find study strategies that match with that learning style. Now, that's not to say that if you are a visual learner, you can't use study strategies that are effective for auditory learners. As I just said, I'm a very visual learner. However, that doesn't mean that listening to a song or a poem won't help me remember the information as well. You really just have to find a style that works best for you. My 5th tip goes along with number 4, and it is to get in the habit of finding and using a study technique that works for you. Now, a starting place for this is to figure out what learning style best suits you and go from there. However, it might also take some trial and error before finding a few methods that really work for you and give you the results that you want. So try out a bunch and see if you get the results that you want. If you do, great, keep at it with those. If you don't, then move on to another study method. Habit number 6 is to actively read. Now you can do this by highlighting, annotating, or marking up the text. This is going to help you remember the information for a longer period of time. As I mentioned earlier, active studying is more effective than passively studying. The same goes for reading. Actively reading is more effective in remembering the information than passively reading. My 7th and final study skills habit is to have a designated study space. Now, this is going to look different for every person. Some people have an office in their house, some people have a desk or a table that they consistently work at. Some people prefer to work in a library or a coffee shop. It really just has to be a place where you can get work done and be productive. So similarly to finding a study strategy that works for you, find a space that works for you. Try out a few different ones and see where you are the most productive. There you go, my top 7 study skills habits that you can start implementing in 2021. Now again, it might be that you already are doing some of these strategies, and if so, that's great, keep on doing them. If these are new to you, then try implementing one of them a month so that way you can really master that one habit. Once again, this is just part 1 in a 3-part series that will give you a full 21 habits to implement in 2021. The other 2 parts of this series will focus on 7 organization habits and 7 time management habits. So be sure to check back for those. I hope you found this video helpful and can implement some of the strategies that we've talked about today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.